since I forgot to say it before the end of last week's, or the last episode of this live stream, happy holidays. And I can get away with it because it's still technically the holidays, right? I mean, we still have New Year's yet to come. So I can say happy holidays, everybody. I hope all of you who celebrated Christmas had a good Christmas. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me here in the last couple of days of 2018. I know in many ways it's a year that we'll be happy that it's over when it's finally over. Thanks to everybody who's with me here in the chat. Thank you for joining me live, and the live chat is open. If you do have a question for me in the live chat, as always, hold on to it for a few minutes. I am going to turn first to some pre-submitted questions from my Patreon patrons, and once I get through with them, I will turn back to you all in the live chat and answer your questions for a few minutes before we go to some other questions as well. So live chat is going to disappear, but it's still there. I can see it. Nobody else watching can see it unless you're on the YouTube page, and then you can actually see it. So it's better to script videos, because when you script videos, you write down what you're going to say first, and then you don't sound like such a doofus. But anyway, so let's go to some pre-submitted questions. Speaking of scripted things, let's do this. Let's go to pre-submitted questions. First question from my patron, John Brockman, who I also see there in the chat. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us. John says, "What'd you get for Christmas?" Well, I'm wearing two of the things I got for Christmas. I got a Star Trek Discovery shirt, courtesy of my lovely wife. I had even forgot that I asked for it. This is how good she is. She asked me casually like 2 or 3 months ago, "So is there anything you want for Christmas?" And I always say, "No, I don't want anything." And eventually she dragged something out of me, and I said, "Well, how about one of those disco shirts from Star Trek Discovery?" I thought those were cool. So I completely forgot about it. And there it was on Christmas morning. And I also got a brand new Hagerstown Suns cap, which a few people who watch my videos had been good enough to point out these last few months that my hat had been looking a little worn, a little ragged, a little dusty. It bore the signs of its age and its wear. So Ashley also got me a brand new Suns cap. So new Suns cap, disco shirt, and one more thing I will share with you, also from my lovely wife. She got me a brand new coffee mug, and this is it right here. It's a Star Trek coffee mug, and it's a beast. It's humongous. And that's what, never mind. And it's got the Star Trek Starfleet insignia on one side, and on the other side is the old-fashioned sexist version of the mantra, "To boldly go where no man has gone before." I love it. It's it's really thick and heavy, like one of them fancy restaurant cups. So that's what I got for Christmas, among other things as well. I also got some things for myself. I got myself a few presents, and one of them is what you're hearing me through right now. I finally upgraded from my beloved Old Faithful blue Snowball microphone, and I got myself a Blue Yeti Pro. So that's my new microphone, and an arm for it, and I got a new digital audio recorder for my videos, and I'm waiting on an adapter to arrive for that, so I can use my microphone, my clip-on lav microphone with it. So I did a little long overdue sort of minor equipment upgrades for myself for Christmas. I just saw John in the chat says, what am I drinking? It's just tea. It's just tea in the new cup. Yeah, so that's what I got for Christmas. And yeah, I'm digging the new microphone. The new microphone actually just got here today. I ordered it from Amazon on Christmas Day. Because why not give Jeff Bezos a nice Christmas present? He doesn't have nearly enough. But yeah, so it just got here today. I'm still sort of breaking it in. But yeah, my new Blue Yeti Pro microphone. So anyway, let's go back to the pre-submitted questions. Thanks for that question, John. The next question is from John Dwyer, who says, "Greetings, Steve. I'm trying to remember the name of a specific fallacy of logic. It is for the bad argument for a God based on this reasoning. The universe is fine-tuned for me to be here, therefore I must be special, and a God creator / designer must be responsible. The counter argument is that if the universe or mere events were any different and you were not born, then you would not be here to ponder your existence. Thus, your being alive does not mean there is a God. A little help if you can. If anybody in the chat has any ideas for this, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was going through some logical fallacies, like some lists of logical fallacies, and I couldn't pinpoint one that was exactly this one. It sounds like sort of an ontological argument, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what one. And obviously, it has elements of the fine-tuning argument or the teleological argument. But it's that inclusion of the I'm God. God created me, therefore I must be special, and because I'm here, God must exist. I'm not sure if there's a specific name for that. So if anybody in the live chat has an idea for what, how did I know Brockman would? He says it's the logical error of being completely fucking backward. Yeah. Okay. There you go. It's the completely fucking backward fallacy. But yeah, it's and maybe a little bit of like a solipsistic fallacy. You're saying, well, because I'm here and therefore I'm special, God must exist. Something like that. Yeah. It has pieces of lots of different fallacies. Argument from incredulity. Oh, malevolent divinity says post hoc ergo propter hoc. Yeah, going all Latin on me. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the specific name of that fallacy is, but it has remnants of several fallacies that I'm familiar with. Next one is from Dave Edwards, another long time viewer and patron. Hi, Dave. Dave says, when is Hollywood going to realize that remaking classic animation is a losing proposition? We've had terrible live-action versions of Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan, Ghost in the Shell, and now they've announced Cowboy Bebop. I thought the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast was lame, and soon The Lion King will hit the screens. Do they consider cell animation such a low art form and CGI more high art? The new CGI Watership Down was a major disappointment compared to the 70s cartoon version. The problem for me is that they taint great stories and great films to a point where people won't go back and see the earlier versions. Yeah, that's a good point. If the new version does tank at the box office or get terrible reviews, I suppose people who are just discovering that story for the first time through that aren't necessarily going to push people out of the way to go see the original. Do I think Hollywood will ever get tired of that? Do I think Hollywood will ever stop doing that? Not as long as people go to see those movies. I mean, look at Disney has this huge backlog of movies, of animated classics that now that they've figured out that they can do live action or CGI versions of those, and people will go to see them, and they can basically sell tickets to the same thing twice. I mean, granted, they have to make it first. They're making the same movie twice, and then they're selling it twice. But they know that they have that built-in audience, and as long as they know that people are going to go for it, yeah, I don't think they're going to stop. No, they have there's no real artistic reason to do it in the first place. They're doing it for commercial reasons, and as long as that commercial reason is there, they're going to keep doing it. I mean, it is. Like the new Lion King, as far as I can tell, is going to be almost completely CGI. So calling it a live action version is a little bit, it's a remake in a different style of animation, which is a little strange to think like, so they're not even, I mean, at least the live action Beauty and the Beast remake did have live actors in many of the roles, you know. I mean, Emma Watson was really there. So it's a little funny when they say, oh, there won't be any human characters in it, but we'll do a live action remake anyway. We'll call it a live action remake, and it'll just be realistic CGI. As far as is traditional cell animation that disrespected as an art form? Unfortunately, I think that's the case. I mean, look, that's why a live action Spider-Man movie opens in May or June, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse opens in December. You know, because that's the perception that this isn't going to be a huge tentpole movie. So we'll open it during the holidays. Maybe the kids will go see it, and we'll save the quote unquote real Spider-Man movie for late spring, early summer when the blockbusters come out. I think that's the perception, unfortunately. Next question from Tom McDonald. I always have a question for you for Ask Away. This time I have racked my brain for one and have come up entirely dry. Why is that, do you think? Have I simply lost the will to question authority? Wait a minute. That's a question. I guess I haven't lost it entirely. But seriously, what's wrong with me in general? Wondering in Wheeler. Tom, we don't know each other all that well, but I have to say of the people that I do know, especially people that I have met through YouTube, you probably have less wrong with you than most of us. So, I mean, if you want me to go in on you and try to find all the stuff that's wrong with you, I mean, eventually I'm going to have to turn that on myself, and that's not going to be pretty. I think you're fine. I don't know if there's anything. I haven't detected anything glaringly wrong with you, where I see you in the chat or I see you in a hangout or something and I go, oh Christ, there's Tom. I can't think of anything. I think you're probably doing okay. Just as far as I can tell. Thank you for the question, by the way. Let's go to Jocelyn Starling. This will be a short one, because she says, I would love to hear a review or 5 stupid things about the movie Reign of Fire. Have you seen it? And it's a short one because the answer is nope. I haven't seen it. Sorry. I probably should. I've seen it, heard it referenced by lots of people. And it's Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey and a bunch of dragons. So what's not to like? But unfortunately, I'm sure it's my loss. I just haven't seen it yet. Here's one from General Contact Unit Problem Child. This is a follow-up to my question from last time. Suppose there was a really awesome Democratic presidential candidate. Let's call them Berlizabeth Wanders. Wanderers. But they were accused of rape right before the election. Do you think the progressives would be willing to say maybe they're a bad person, but they'll push policies I want and vote for them anyway? We already know the answer to that question with regard to conservatives. Do you think progressives would act differently? No. Unfortunately, I don't think they would. I would like to be able to say, oh, the people on our side, no, they wouldn't be willing to overlook something as serious as a credible sexual assault charge, even if it was their dream candidate. We would be able to, say we can't elect or vote for a probable sexual predator, no matter how much we may agree with their politics or have hope for them being able to push forward progressive I would like to hope that we would that I could say, no, our side would never do that. But we probably would. We probably would. I don't, I mean, look how many people, I know it was a different time and it was a long time ago, and our consciousness was perhaps not as raised on these issues as it is now, particularly as it has been over the last year or so because of Me Too and the Weinstein effect and everything. But look how many of us were willing to look the other way on Bill Clinton's accusations, on the accusations made against Bill Clinton. We looked the other way on that cheerfully. We were like, nah, never mind. I like this Clinton guy. A lot of progressives and liberals and center-left people, a lot of non-conservatives did that and continue to do that because Clinton turned out to be a pretty good president in many ways. So, I unfortunately, I don't think that we progressives would really be all that different, especially if it was a scenario where you, like you described in your previous question, where it was late in the game, where the accusations came out very, very shortly before the election. And it was, well, let's vote for this person and hope for the best and see if we can fix it later, just, to keep the Republicans from winning. I think a lot of progressives would say, you know what? I don't care. I know it's too bad. It's a serious charge. I wish that it hadn't happened, but it's, we're down to the clock is ticking away. It's election day. It's either this guy or this guy, and we have to vote for this guy. It's a tough choice, but no, I don't think that leftists, progressives, liberal, all that whole sort of non-conservative side, I don't think that we would be any better in that way than conservatives have been. Here's one from Dr. Babylon. Merry Christmas, Steve. Have you watched She-Ra yet? And if so, what did you think of it? Does the lack of a stupidly obvious and lazily kept secret identity damage the show's credibility? Is there something else that makes She-Ra work in spite of that? Yes, you see, that's what happens when you open your big mouth. We were talking about He-Man in the last Ask Away stream 2 weeks ago, and I said, I think the key that makes the whole thing work is the ridiculously half-assed secret identity of Prince Adam, where he looks exactly like He-Man and nobody notices. And to me, that's the keystone that makes the whole thing work. I did watch the new She-Ra. I thought it was awesome. I really, really liked it. I watched it, I think, the following week after that live stream. I thought it was terrific. I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I liked what they did with the secret identity. I liked the fact that they disposed of that very quickly. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue. They're still, and what I find very clever is they're still finding ways to deal with the duality of Adora and She-Ra, but without the secret identity, which I think is really interesting. And I thought it was a fantastic show. I really, really enjoyed it. And yes, does it work with the lack of a traditional secret identity? Yes, it works just fine without that. It works just the way it is, because they do still explore that duality between Adora and She-Ra, because the supporting characters are fantastic. Glimmer is such a great character. Bo is such a great character. The dynamic between Adora and Catra is so unexpected and so compelling and fantastic. Fucking Scorpia, my God, how do you not love that character? She is such a great character. Just really uniquely drawn, both in terms of writing and in terms of character design. Characters, really interesting, compelling stories, a nice balance of episodic storytelling and season-long arcs, which I thought was really nice. Just a really, really likable, fun, awesome show. Yes, I really, really enjoyed the new She-Ra tremendously. Next from Matthew Rick. What is your favorite thing to order in a Chinese restaurant? By which I mean the American strip mall variety, not the ones that can properly be considered authentic Chinese food. I'm a lo mein man, personally. There are a lot of carbs there, though, so it's a rare treat for me. I have not been to a Chinese restaurant to order Chinese food since my wife and I went vegetarian. Probably, what's it been now? 2 years? It's been a while. But before that, there were a couple of Chinese places around here that were regular stops for us. And my favorites, my favorite as a kid was chicken chow mein, because that's American Chinese food 101. That's the first Chinese dish I ever ate. I still would order it from time to time as an adult, and I would like to try different places' versions of it, because it's one of those dishes that no Chinese restaurant makes it quite the same as another one. So that makes it interesting. But I love General Tso's chicken. I love orange chicken. Those are probably my two favorites. And sweet and sour pork. There used to be a really great Chinese place at the mall in town here, the Valley Mall, and it was kind of halfway between one of the strip mall Chinese places like you're talking about and like a really nice restaurant, because the menu was basically the same as you would get at one of those sort of cheaper Chinese places, like a Chinese takeout place, but it was really, really well done. It wasn't all like authentic Chinese food. It was the sort of the American version, but it was done really, really well. And they had a nice dining room, and it was called Rick's China Garden, and it was my favorite restaurant for years. And it's not there anymore. It closed several years ago. But they made the most awesome sweet and sour pork, and that was what I would get there every time I went, practically. So I got to throw sweet and sour pork in there too. There are other places that make it pretty good as well, but nobody has ever touched the sweet and sour pork from Rick's China Garden as far as I'm concerned. Next from Andrew C. Hawkins. What would you think if Trump's ultimate downfall is pissing off the military intelligence establishment too much? I've been thinking about this more since Mattis's exit, and I'm not sure how exactly it would happen, but as much as I hate the man, I don't think it would be good if he were removed at the behest of actual torturers and killers. I don't think that he will be removed by the military intelligence folks. I do think, and I think this has probably happened already, I think that he will be frustrated and thwarted by them because even though, as you say, there are people who are torturers and killers. I mean, these are the people we very rightly jump on George W. Bush and Dick Cheney over rendition and enhanced interrogation, other words for torture that happened during the Bush years. And they deserve a lot of the blame for that. But there were also people who actually followed those orders and did those things. And so, you can't let those, and a lot of those people still work there, still have the same job, still work for the CIA, still work for military intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. And you can't just ignore that. You can't just pretend that everybody's a great person now because the person, because the torturing, the president who signed off on torture isn't there anymore. So that's a good point. It's a very good point, and it's something that we need to remember and remain sort of vigilant about. But no, I don't see the military being the cause of Trump, going away or removing Trump, unless he tries to do something just really, really radical, unless he orders like a nuclear strike against somebody. And then I think there would be military leaders who would say, okay, fuck this. We're not nuking somebody because this guy told us to. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. And then, then it's like people say, oh, if the cabinet tried to remove Trump, then that would trigger a constitutional crisis. No, a constitutional crisis would be if the commander in chief ordered the military to bomb a particular target or take a particular action. And the leaders of the military said, nope, we're not going to do it because they believed that the commander in chief was no longer a legitimate authority, was no longer competent to be giving them orders. That would be a constitutional crisis because the Constitution doesn't tell us how we're supposed to deal with that. But no, do I think that's going to happen? No, I think everybody, including the military industrial people, the military intelligence people, are just sort of waiting for things to sort themselves out. They're either waiting for Trump to be forced to resign because his criminal or corruption activities will catch up to him, or they're waiting for him to lose re-election in 2020, and then they can all say, okay, well, we got through that. Whew, let's go back to how things used to be. So no, I don't see the military intelligence establishment being responsible for Trump's downfall. But I do see them sort of thwarting him. I do see them frustrating him if he tries to go too far. And you're right. It's a really shitty situation when that's the point that we're at, where the military is the institution that is that is standing between our current shitty situation and just flat out all in authoritarianism. Not a good situation to be in at all. Here's one from Some Random Geek, and actually Some Random Geek asked two questions. I'm going to go through them both at the same time. Or one after the other, rather, if I went through them at the same time. It would make no sense at all. So first, Geek says, just a request to remind people that if they can, to please give some money to our friends Ashley, the YouTuber Electric Mayhem 87, who just reached over 1,000 subs. So congrats to her via her GoFundMe campaign. Link here, and that link is in the description of the video. And also to give money, if possible, to our friend Joanna via PayPal, and that link is also in the description of this video if you want to send her some money through PayPal. And also to give money to our mutual comrade in a financially difficult time, Erin, via her PayPal, and that link is also in the description of this video. So if you want to help out Ashley or Joanna or Erin, all that info is in the description of the video you're watching right now. Geek goes on to say even $5 or $10 can add up, and sharing those links on social media can help as well. I think that any comrade that has some extra money or spare money that they are willing to part with should give that money to comrades who are in need. I think we should all do that if we can. But money is tight for everyone because of many things, mainly which is the contradictions of capitalism. In order to make profits, companies have to either raise prices or reduce labor costs. They often reduce labor costs, but the laborers, the workers, are also the biggest consumers in this consumer-driven economy of late-stage neoliberal capitalism. But how come laborers and workers spend money as consumers with low wages? Thus, one of the contradictions of capitalism. But I am a radical, and I guess I can't help myself and talk about this stuff. Another question. Since we just had Christmas, and I saw your post on Facebook about you watching a Christmas movie by Tim Burton in Batman Returns, in your opinion, what makes a movie a Christmas movie? Does the movie have to be about Christmas, like Santa Claus the movie, or can it just take place on Christmas and be a Christmas movie like Gremlins and Die Hard? What are some of your favorite Christmas movies or TV specials? Best Christmas movie, best Christmas TV special? Any underseen Christmas movies that you feel aren't talked about enough and or not enough people have seen? For me, more people need to see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It is a noir film starring Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer. My favorite Christmas movie is Satoshi Kon's Tokyo Godfathers. That is also criminally underseen. Thank you as always, Steve, and I hope your Christmas was lovely for you, Ashley, and Adi. It was, and I hope it was lovely for you as well, my friend. And I just want to mention, in addition to the links that are in the description for the first half of the question there for our friends. I was thinking about this earlier because this has become sort of customary for some random geek to push these fundraisers for people who are struggling, which I've said before I think is awesome and commendable, and I'm happy to do my small little part to help that. I've noticed, and maybe this is confirmation bias on my part, but I've noticed that people on the left, progressives, people on the left, people like Geek who are further to the left than I am in our politics, so often when they make appeals like this, or when they talk about political things, and even when they refer to sort of principles and more theoretical things, at the core of it is always a concern about people in need. And I don't see that as often from the right. I know people on the right that give to charity, that care very much about the less fortunate. I'm not saying that everybody on the right is heartless and evil and blah, blah, blah. But when people on the left, when you talk about their political opinions, when you talk about people who want to radically change our form of government, who are communists, who are extremely to the left, who are anarchists, etc., very often at the core of that is wanting to rebuild the system and make it so that people will have an easier time, so that the people on the bottom, the poor, the destitute, the desperate, the people who have to digitally panhandle in order to pay their bills, that they won't have to do that anymore. That everybody will be okay, that everybody will be taken care of, that it'll be not just a more equitable society because they're attached to some abstract principle, but so that everybody will have an easier time getting by in life, so that there will be real, tangible improvement in the lives of the less fortunate. And I have to admire that. And I admire that greatly. And I think that does our side a lot of credit. You know, when a leftist almost always, and maybe it's confirmation bias. I'm fully open to that. But in my experience, all of the people I know who are further to the left than I am in terms of their politics, and who have slowly dragged me further and further to the left as well over the years, there's always a root of genuine, deep concern for the plight of people that I just don't see as often, and I just don't see as connected to politics on the right. Most people, when people on the right that I see get really indignant about politics, they're fighting for abstract principles that they don't necessarily connect to real people. You know what I mean? They talk about free speech, the principle, as though it's and a very noble principle, but they defend the principle. And when you get right down to it, they're either selfishly arguing on their own behalf because they weren't allowed to say something they wanted to say, or they're arguing for people who wanted to say something they agree with and weren't allowed to say it or were punished for saying it. And someone who said something that maybe they don't agree with but was prevented from speaking or was punished or whatever, they don't really care about. They don't really open their mouths about that. So it's that underlying concern for people. I see that a lot on the left, and I admire that a lot, and I think that does us a lot of credit. So I just wanted to say that. As far as Christmas movies, my definition of a Christmas movie is extremely flexible and extremely loose. To me, a Christmas movie is a movie that reminds you of Christmas, that you enjoy watching on Christmas, that puts you in a Christmassy mood, that you look forward every year to Christmas because it gives you an excuse to watch that movie. Like that's all it needs for me. I don't care if it takes place during Christmas. I don't care if it opened during Christmas. I don't care if it's about Christmas. It doesn't matter. To me, Batman Returns is a Christmas movie because it takes place over Christmas. It opened in theaters in June. I remember going to see it in 1992 when it first opened, when I was 12 years old, and thinking, this is a Christmas movie. Why is this opening in June? And then when it came out on home video in time for the holidays that year, I remember watching it on Christmas because it was a Christmas movie. And I thought, oh, great, I have a Christmas Batman movie now. This is awesome. So it's a Christmas movie for me. You know, a lot of people like watching Die Hard on Christmas because it takes place during Christmas. There aren't a whole lot of like super Christmassy themes in terms of story, in terms of, other than just the fact that it takes place during Christmas. But people enjoy watching it during Christmas. So it's a Christmas movie, For me personally, I love the Alastair Sim Christmas Carol. That's one of my favorites. I love Miracle on 34th Street. That's probably my favorite like Christmassy movie. I love the Christmas episode of Nowhere Man. I love the Christmas episode of Perfect Strangers, which is the most cornball, saccharine, sentimental, maudlin thing that show ever did, and I love it. The Christmas episode of Perfect Strangers, the gift of the Meepiot. And So yeah. Those are some of my favorite. I don't know about underappreciated. I'd have to think about that. Here's one from Francois Lacombe. I was watching the holiday sing-along episode of Steve and Stuffy, and I was wondering, how difficult is it to sing while doing all those different voices? It depends on the voice. Some of the voices are really, really easy to sing in. Stuffy, for example. Stuffy is I wouldn't say I sing particularly well in any voice, including my own natural voice. But in terms of like the physical effort needed to hit the notes and to be somewhat consistent in the singing, Stuffy is probably the easiest. Jack is hard because you have the accent, and Jack's voice has a very particular quality that is sometimes difficult for me to nail, so I can hear it and I think, yeah, that sounds like Jack. Toby Benson is very difficult because Toby Benson requires a lot of breath, so sometimes when I'm recording Toby Benson's dialogue, even when he's just talking, I'll get out of breath and I'll have to stop and change my rhythm or take a deep breath in the middle of the sentence in order to get it all out, because Toby Benson's vocal quality is very breathy, and it just takes a lot of oxygen to talk like Toby Benson, and it takes a lot of oxygen to sing like Toby Benson as well. So that's probably the most difficult of them. John Burnsy, Steve, Merry Christmas. Thanks for answering my question last time. I think I understand some perhaps awkward concerns you might not want addressed. Your comment of, I just don't want the amendments treated like they were handed down from on high. Well, okay, let's look at modern day USA and ask ourselves, where is the biggest problem lie with citizens and government? It's interesting. I remember a video from New York City, liberal bastion, where there was a self-identified black male veteran who was chastising the police. You think you're tough? I've been in Iraq. I've been in a war zone. If you want to show how tough you are, volunteer and go fight for your country. The Fourth Amendment mentions illegal search and seizure. Oh, the cop here is waving us to pull over. You haven't been drinking, have you? Don't worry, I'm sure when it comes to the police, they're never interested in overstepping their boundaries. Hey, remember when Bush and Trump were being chastised for anyone who gives up their liberty for security deserves neither? It's interesting to think about it that way. Another way is, if we keep making things that people want illegal, we might find that this all leads to massive crime. But that's not something to consider in the U.S. today. What with the idea of prohibition and Al Capone still fresh in some people's minds? Wait, I think I might have wandered off my point. If you allow your police to dictate the way your government needs to wage war, I think you're not treating the amendments like commandments. In some ways, I doubt you're considering the amendments as having any value at all. Is the First Amendment important to you? You know who it's most important to? Assholes. Sorry, but if you're a nice person, keeps to yourself, doesn't bother anyone. But what do I know? I'm still seeing the irony of the new legislated, not legalized marijuana laws here in Canada. So spark up, buddy, and have a happy new year. Well, thank you. I will not be sparking up, but thank you for the sentiment anyway. It's a really good point that you raise in your question. About how if we allow the police to define what the laws are because they're the ones who enforce them, then we're probably in a lot of trouble. And you're right that it shouldn't just be assholes who care about the amendments, who care about the Bill of Rights. And if it is just the assholes who care about the First Amendment, for example, then yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. If the only people making noise in defense of free speech are white supremacists and fascists who claim the First Amendment as their warrant to say and do whatever they want and to push their oppressive totalitarian agendas, if they're the only ones championing free speech or defining free speech for people, then we're in a lot of trouble. Because that their idea of free speech is not the idea of free speech I want upheld in practice and in theory. And their speech is not the speech I want to dominate the conversation. So if they're the only ones talking about free speech and they're the only ones who are valuing the First Amendment, that's a problem. And you're right to point that out. And you're right to say, it shouldn't just be the assholes. It should be the people who, well, I just keep to myself and mind my own business and, it's not important to me. It should be important to all of us, and we should take an active interest in it, and we should think about what these principles mean to us and how we want to see them interpreted and lived out. I think all of that is very important. So it's a very thought-provoking question. You did wander from the point a bit, but I've been known to do that myself from time to time, which I realize is hard for people to believe. Here's one from Nick Anderson. Dear Steve, while the Lego company's mini dolls, created specifically for their girl sets, have largely served to reinforce old stereotypes in lines like Friends, what do you think of their latest move to include minifigs and mini dolls together in the Lego Movie 2? This is a fascinating decision to me, as it flies in the face of the toy industry's conventional wisdom. This belief that if you don't keep gendered products neatly segregated, you'll alienate boys who won't want to be caught playing with a toy that girls also play with and be called a girly boy. Do you see this move toward mixing girly elements and boy elements in the same box? Oh my goodness, excuse me. These blurred lines as an indication that today's kids raised by our generation are more accepting than past ones, more comfortable with who they are and what they enjoy, and that some companies are starting to catch on to this more flexible market. P.S. Sorry for bringing up something so depressing last time. Well, no problem. People ask depressing questions from time to time. I didn't know that about the minifigures in the Lego movie, but that in general, I think that's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that's something that we learn through conditioning. If toy stores were not segregated according to toys for boys and toys for girls, then I don't think kids would grow up thinking that so much. I think that's a message that we send kids as they're growing up in their formative years, and they sort of internalize that this is the way the world is. And we see the results of that. People start treating it as though it's an objective scientific fact, when really it's just something that we've been conditioned to see and to view the world in a certain way and to sort of sort each other into these categories. And yeah, if Lego putting quote unquote girl toys in with a movie with the quote unquote boy toys makes people see it in a different way. It makes people realize that you can play with whatever toys you're interested in, that just because you're a girl, it doesn't mean you can't play with toy cars or toy dump trucks. And just because you're a boy, it doesn't mean you can't play with dolls. And you can call them dolls. You don't have to call them action figures, because let's get them started on toxic masculinity early, right? No, he's a little boy. Those aren't dolls. Those are action figures. Dolls are for girls. Okay. So, all right. G.I. Joe is a doll. Okay? Like an old school, like 70s G.I. Joe, like a fucking G.I. Joe that's like that big and has real clothes that you can take. I mean, that's a doll. Folks, I hate to ruin anybody's childhood. That's a doll. It's not an action figure. And so, yeah, if it can help to sort of tear down those stereotypes and get kids more open to that, so that they're not putting each other into these boxes of, well, you're a girl, you have to be that way. You're a boy, you have to be that way. I think that's fantastic. I think it would be a wonderful thing. I think a couple generations of that, and we might, things might be a lot better. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's very commendable, and I hope it has that result. Here's another one from General Contact Unit Problem Child. Actually, two more. I'll do them one after the other. You're dead and you're going to be reincarnated as a human in 123 BC. Would you rather be born into an urban society, an agrarian society, or a hunter-gatherer society? And then the next one is, suppose you could make all the fossil fuel in the world vanish. Obviously, this would create chaos in the short term, but would the long-term benefit to the environment be worth that? So to take the first one first, I think I would probably choose the agrarian society because I just think the nature of the work would suit me better. I don't know if I would an urban society back in 123 BC, I'm not even sure what that would even look like. Agrarian society, I think I can handle being a farmer, in 123 BC, so I'd probably go for that. Put down roots, have a house, have a place where, you're not a hunter-gatherer, you're not like constantly on the move. You grow your food, you're a farmer. I think that might be agreeable to me. And would I make all the fossil fuels in the world vanish if I could? Would it be worth it? And would it be worth the short-term chaos? Yeah, of course it would. Yeah, it would be chaos. If all the fossil fuels just vanished at once, that would be disastrous. I would never want to do that. I would want to wean people off of it so that there's a gradual transition, so that there's not chaos. But if somehow, for some reason, all the fossil fuel in the world did vanish, yes, the long-term benefit to the environment would certainly be worth it. Absolutely it would. The chaos would last for a few years, a few decades maybe if we were really, really bad at the transition. But after that, I think the benefits would be substantial. And I think once the chaos was over and the disruption caused by that sudden disappearance of fossil fuels had been dealt with and it was in the past, future generations, I think would not have a problem with that at all. So, it would be worth it. In the long term, it would be worth it. In the short term, it would be nightmarish. In the long term, it would be very worth it. One more patron question. This is from Joe McClory. I keep getting this feeling that the talking point of the right about people just calling people racist, sexist, ableist, and other such things has a bit of truth to it that should be addressed. While I disagree with the point many of them seem to be making that they do not have racist ideas or tendencies, I think we could make more ground in changing hearts and minds if we framed things in such a way that did not bring up people's defenses of themselves and people they support or identify with. Do you think that it is a good idea to stop calling people whateverist because they spread whateverist ideas and instead just say the ideas are bad and they should not spread them? Well, yes and no. I mean, I agree with the sentiment, and I do think that there are certainly people who are turned off if you go right at them. If someone says something racist or says something in support of a person who says and does racist things, for example, I think you can definitely turn people off if you go right at them and say that's racist. You're a racist for saying it, because then the defenses come up and a lot of people, unfortunately, don't do too well at we're not good at introspection and self-reflection when we're led to it gently by the hand. You know what I mean? So if we're slapped in the face with it, we're definitely not going to do it. The defenses come up immediately. And I don't know how you get around that and yet still continue to push people to behave the right way. I mean, I think on a person-to-person basis, I think you can probably do it. I don't know how we can do it in terms of the national conversation. Like, I think in terms of the media and the national conversation, I think it's very important to call racist things racist a lot more than we do. And to call sexist things sexist a lot more than we do. But, if it's a member of your family, if it's someone that you're interacting with on a daily basis, it's tough. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to just say to a person, that's fucking racist, and you're a racist for saying it. You can probably reach that person in a gentler way. You know what I mean? You can probably ease them into it and say, "Look, I don't think you mean to come across this way. I don't think you intend to hurt people, but here's what is happening as a result of you expressing yourself this way." Like I think you can get somewhere on a person to person basis. But in terms of a broad sort of how do we frame these issues in the media, I actually think we could stand to be a little more open with it than we have been. But again, it's not an easy shot to make. You know what I mean? It has to be. You have to calibrate it very carefully. I agree with you that I think calling things racist that are racist right away can bring up defenses and turn people off. And I do think there must be a better a way of doing that is more effective at changing people's minds, whose minds are open to being changed. You know, but it's a tough calibration to make. Okay, so that's it for the pre-submitted questions. I'm going to come back here in a little bit and answer some questions that were asked in the comment section of the previous episode of this series. But for now, let's spend a few minutes with you all in the live chat. Hello, my friends. Oh, hey, and look, Leto Anor is here. Hello, Leto. So how are we in the live chat? I'm going to scroll up and see what I have missed. Oh, I see Tony Blakeway says, hate to say it, but I think the main benefit to the planet would be the massive loss in human life caused by the wars that would come. Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'm getting at. You know, when I say like the long-term benefits would be worth it, the short-term benefits would be a nightmare. Yeah, it would be there would be wars, there would be death, there would be just inconceivable awfulness in the ensuing years after, if all the fossil fuels just went away because we become so dependent on them. But the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of this generation would probably have a much better world. John Brockman says, my dog says, hey, hi, what's up? Hey, hi. Hi, John's dog. This is a good one from A. Trance. What's your opinion of Avery Brooks potentially showing up in the Picard show? I would love to see Avery Brooks show up anywhere. I would love to see Cisco drop in on Picard during the Picard show. That would be terrific. Again, if it's a good story, like if there's a reason for it, if it's not just fan service. Actually, you know what? If they're going to do fan service, just have him show up as Avery Brooks. You know what I mean? He's not even in character as Cisco. It's just Avery Brooks just, sitting. He's just in the corner of like a room somewhere playing the piano. Picard walks in. He's like, "Hey, Avery." Just do that. Is it still robotic? Sorry. Does it still sound bad? Yeah, I just got a note from my wife as well saying your audio is bad. Does it still sound bad now? Can somebody give me a... Okay, it still sounds shitty. All right, let me see what I can do about this here. Okay. How does that sound? I know it probably doesn't sound as good because I'm using the mic from the webcam. Does it still sound robotic? Yeah, okay. Super quiet. I'm going to switch back to the other mic now. How about this? Yeah, it was low. Is that good? Is this as good? Okay. I think I just needed to. I just needed to flip it and flip it back. I'm not sure what the problem was. Yeah, how's my free speech now? Exactly. Thanks for letting me know. It's nice that I'm glad I didn't have to go through the whole. I'm glad I didn't have to go through the whole rest of the show sounding like a robot. Okay. And I know I missed a ton of questions while I was fucking with the mic. So let me scroll up a little bit here in the chat and see. My tea is not Earl Grey, and it is not hot. I am embarrassed to say. Oh, Francois, the full text on the Superman Batman poster behind me. That one right there. There's a balloon, sort of an action balloon in the upper corner that says "Saving the world's filthy ass," and then the main text in the middle is "Because they can take it," and then there's another little balloon in the lower corner that says Batman says, "I'm trolling for you next, ass face." That's the full text, and that's my lovely wife made that for me. That was a gift for me many, many years ago. That she repurposed a poster and added her own text to it, and I thought it was just wonderful. So there we go. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do the robot, John. I'm sorry. Oh, Zipline Shazam. Who do you think would win in an apocalyptic dance-off? Roman Catholics or Southern Baptists? Catholics. Hey, Christy's here. Hi, Christy. 255 AD says, when I was 4, I felt sorry for girls because they had to wear dresses and have long hair. What would you say to a little boy who views girls that way? Oh, Leto, did I skip you? I'm sorry. It's I'm sorry that you're only here, Leto, because you can't sleep, but I'm very glad that you are here. So I have very mixed feelings about it. I wish you felt better, but then again, I'm happy that you're here. So what should I choose? Should I choose my selflessness, my concern for your health, or should I choose my selfish satisfaction that you're here? It's tough. I think they're going to fight it out for the rest of the show. Look, Tony, if you can't dance to Catholic church music, that is your fault, okay? Personally, I can't dance to any kind of music, so. Oh, that's okay, Christy. It's probably going to go on for a while. I know Christy says, I'm late. Sorry. It's probably going to last for a little while because I take so long to answer patron questions now. So you're not quite at the tail end of it. Where did my wife get that Star Trek mug? I think she might have ordered it from the Star Trek website. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask her where exactly she got it from. It's a mystery. Here's one from Lisa Simpson 2. Trying to think of a question. Do you play Skyrim? No, I don't. Do you think Gul Dukat is awesome? I think he's an awesome character. I think he's one of the great villains in all of Star Trek. So he's awesome in that way. I think Mark Alimo, the actor who plays him, is awesome. But like, is he awesome as a human being? Like, no, he's a monster. He's evil. He's an evil monster. But he's a great villain and a very entertaining character. Oh, Christy asks, what's my fave New Year's movie? I don't know if I even have a New Year's movie. I don't think I have a New Year's movie. We do the Twilight Zone marathon on New Year's. That's really the only thing that we watch like every year on New Year's. I don't know. I don't think we have a New Year's movie. Do you have a New Year's movie? Does anybody have a New Year's movie? Malevolent. I'm just, and I apologize that I'm like, I'm really sort of hopscotching across the chat. I'm just sort of scrolling up and looking for interesting questions that I missed or questions that I have like interesting answers to. Sir Kittalot says, hey, Steve, if you were around in the 1940s, would you sign up to fight the Nazis? If so, what would your preferred role be? I would like to think I would. Yeah, I mean, I can't say for sure. It's easy to say, yeah, absolutely. I totally would have signed up to fight the Nazis. I mean, if we're just going to go full fantasy fulfillment and assume I would have done exactly as my principles demand, then yes, I would have signed up to fight the Nazis, and I would have wanted to be in one of those Brad Pitt Inglourious Bastards units, where we just wander the European countryside killing Nazis where we find them. No way you could ever verify that I would actually do that, so that's what I'm going to say. Malevolent Divinity asked, would you say that the Republican behavior leading up to the 2013 government shutdown was treason or no? I don't know. I mean, treason, as we have seen, is a very high bar to clear. I don't know if I would call it treason, but I would call it, Republicans acting in an incredibly partisan and selfish and shitty way. Joe McClory says, is there a movie you'd like to be remade because they did a bad job the first time with a good premise? I can't think of one off the top of my head. If anybody else in the chat has some suggestions, I'm open to some suggestions on that. Jeremy Robinson says, thoughts on Stargate SG-1? I've only seen just a handful of episodes of it, so I have no strongly formed opinions of it. I liked what little I saw. I like Richard Dean Anderson. Damon White, what would you most dread about a Pence presidency? Probably the theocracy, probably the imposition of his really, really warped, religiously derived or religiously justified morals through the law. I think Pence is a pretty unapologetic theocrat. And obviously, I think it would be a horrible time for all of my friends who are LGBTQ or people of color or immigrants. It would be all of the things that Trump brings, plus Pence would probably be a more competent administrator. Aid Trant says, would you like to see Star Trek ever go galactic in a future post-Nemesis series and visit Andromeda or other nearby galaxies in the local group, like a super trans-warp drive technology? Yeah, I mean, it would depend on the writing. It would depend on the show. I mean, I think there's potential there, sure. If they wanted to do a Star Trek show where the ship was traveled to a completely different galaxy. Yeah. If you have a good premise other than takes place in a different galaxy, yeah, I think that could be pretty cool. Uh, 255 AD. Did I read your question and not answer it? I'm sorry. Thank you for the reminder. I think it was the sound fuck up, right? The sound fucked up on me, and then I got distracted, and I didn't actually answer your question. So let me go back and find it. Oh, the girls thing. Yes, you're right. It was after the sound thing, and I got distracted. When I was 4, I felt sorry for girls because they had to wear dresses and have long hair. What would you say to a little boy who views girls that way? I would say that girls don't have to dress any particular way, that we might have fashions, we might have certain expectations or certain styles that say a girl should dress this way and have her hair this way, and a boy should dress this way and have his hair this way. But the truth is, if you want to dress a way that's different than that, you can do that. You can be whoever you want to be. You can dress however you feel comfortable dressing. That's what I would say. And if you feel sorry for girls who have to dress that way, maybe be a boy who stands up and says, you know what, if a girl doesn't want to dress that way, she doesn't have to. If a girl isn't comfortable wearing a dress or having her hair that length, she doesn't have to keep it that way if she doesn't want to. She can be different. It's okay. Maybe encourage the boy to, speak up and say, hey, wait a minute. If she's not cool with that, she doesn't have to dress that way. Maybe try that. I don't know. I'm not a parent. Take any parenting advice I give you with a grain of salt. Greg Bauer, any plans to do a Star Trek animated series video? Not specifically, although there is I just started scripting the next proper Trek Actually video, which is about the holodeck. And there is a reference to Star Trek the Animated Series in that video, which I think is the first reference to the animated series in one of my Trek Actually videos. I think. But it won't be about Star Trek the Animated Series, but it will make reference to it in the course of talking about the holodeck, because on the animated series there's one episode where it is shown that the Enterprise has a room that they call the recreation room that looks a lot like the holodeck. So I referenced that in the holodeck video, but the video itself will not be about Star Trek the Animated Series. But yeah, I love the animated series. I would totally do videos about the animated series. And I will when I come up with reasons to mention it or to talk about it. My favorite Christmas movie, and why is it Die Hard? You know what? I have to say, I thought our Die Hard episode of Late Seating was one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. I watched it I think the day after it posted. I watched Die Hard and listened to our episode along with it, and I thought we did a really good job. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. I think Jason and I did a really good job with our Die Hard episode. Die Hard is not my favorite Christmas movie, but I do like Die Hard a lot. Liam Foley, are you familiar with the sociological concept of the American civil religion, where themes of patriotism, such as the flag, the Constitution, and the military, are treated as religious and sacred symbols? I don't know if I've ever heard it referred to as the American civil religion, but yeah, I agree with all of that completely. I do think that there are national symbols that we treat as though they were sacred, as though they were religious, and certain people, I guess people who observe that religion don't take too kindly to irreverence shown toward those symbols. I think that's definitely a thing. Alien Nation, Damon White says Alien Nation. That's a good one. Yeah, a remake of Alien Nation could be good. I thought Alien Nation was okay. The first time around. I thought the movie, and actually I thought the TV series was okay too. But yeah, I could use a remake. Nicole Malott, do we live in an open or a closed universe? That's above my pay grade, Nicole. I have no idea. It seems closed, right? It doesn't seem like we're getting any information from the outside of it, and the Big Bang certainly seems like a black box, that you can't see beyond that. But who knows? I have no idea. Greg Bauer says, have I ever watched any episodes of Farscape? Actually, I haven't. I might have seen one or two long time ago when it was originally airing, but nothing that left much of an impression. But a lot of people mention it to me, especially when I talk about Star Trek. They're like, you should watch Farscape. So I'll probably have to check it out at some point. Oh, The Time Machine is, and Christy mentioned When Harry Met Sally. That's a good New Year's movie, I guess. Yeah. Time Machine, New Year's Eve. That's a good one. Samuel Sturgill, Steve, can I make my own Stupid Things videos? Well, sure. I mean, I would prefer that you don't rip my bit off completely. Don't use my graphics and shit. But if you wanted, I mean, I didn't invent doing list videos. So if you wanted to make a video, here are 5 stupid things or 5 whatever things about whatever. I mean, I didn't invent that. So yeah, I'm not going to stop it from doing that. I mean, don't rip me off completely, but there's nothing original to me about that concept. No, not at all. Joe McClory, who was your first famous crush? Probably Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, I would say. Yeah. Christy asks, have I seen The Drunk History about Harriet Tubman? Yes, I love that. And who was Harriet? Was it Octavia Spencer who was Harriet Tubman in that? Yeah, that was an awesome one. I love that one. That was really funny and really cool. 255 AD, would you be in favor of breaking the Prime Directive to stop a global nuclear war, i.e. maybe by beaming the ICBMs away mid-flight? I would be, yeah. I would be willing to break the Prime Directive to prevent something like that, yeah. Yeah, just like if I were Superman, I would get rid of the nuclear missiles. But that's just me. There's probably there are all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't do it, especially if you look big picture. But as a human being with a heart, when you see something like that about to happen and you have the power to prevent it, I would feel like I had to prevent it. Yeah. John Brockman says, "Hey Steve, how's the bowling team?" It's non-existent. And Andrew and I have not spoken about it. In fact, I think it's only brought up when you bring it up, John. So if you want there to be a bowling team, you're going to have to keep bringing it up. Sir Kidalot, hey Steve, any word on when the replacement for An Atheist Reads will be? January? Yes. The first episode of The Replacement will actually go up a week from today. It'll go up Friday, January 4th. So that'll be a big day, because not only is that the day of the New Japan Pro Wrestling Tokyo Dome show, but it's also the day when my new series debuts. So it'll be next Friday when it goes up. Joe McClory says, "Is there a Trek villain you think is right or more right than the heroes?" Eddington from Deep Space Nine. And if that topic ever wins the poll, because now there's a poll on my Patreon page to choose the topics of future Trek Actually videos. So if the Eddington topic ever wins the poll, I think right now it's in second place for the February video. I'll have to check though. I haven't checked today. But yeah, I don't think Eddington is right about everything, and I do think Eddington is probably more of a villain than a hero. There's enough about Eddington that I can't get behind, but I think in general he is on the right side, and I think the Maquis are much more sympathetic as villains than other typical Star Trek villains, even more complex villains in Star Trek. So yeah, I would say Eddington and the Maquis. Francois Lecombe says, "You still regret not making that Coke joke?" Yes! God damn it. I was telling Ashley about it today. There are two jokes. Okay. Here's my regret. And this is in reference to the Die Hard episode of Late Seating, which went up last week. And if you haven't watched it yet, if you like to watch Die Hard during the holidays, we did a special episode of the Late Seating podcast, Jason and I, where it's a commentary track where it's designed to be listened to while you're watching the movie. It's like our riff track of Die Hard. And it came out really well. I was super, super happy with it. I think it's the best one of those we've ever done. Definitely. I think it's better than our It's a Wonderful Life one, and it's better than our Home Alone one. And I just think it's a really good episode of our show. So if you haven't done that, get your copy of Die Hard. Watch it while you're listening to the Late Seating podcast, because I can't recommend it highly enough. But there are two jokes that I didn't make that I wish to God I had made. And I realized both of them while I was watching it. And it was too late. The first one, as Francois mentions, is late in the film when Ellis, who is the smarmy sort of scumbag co-worker of Holly Gennaro McLean, he's talking to Alan Rickman's character, and he ends up, that's the scene where he gets shot, right? He gets killed. But right before he gets killed, one of the henchmen brings him a glass of Coca-Cola. And Ellis is also a cokehead. We see him doing cocaine in Holly's office, like in one of the early scenes in the movie. So he does coke. The guy brings him a Coke at the end, right? That in and of itself is a joke, and actually a really funny one. He gets a Coke at the end, and we've seen him snorting Coke. So I wish that I had the presence of mind during our commentary track to say, when the henchman brings Ellis the Coke, "Here's the Coke you asked for." That would have been so great. I wish I had made that joke. "Here's the Coke you asked for." The other one that I didn't mention in when I left a comment and haven't talked about is the first time that Alan Rickman kills somebody, when he shoots Nakatomi. I made some Harry Potter jokes throughout the movie, and I made some Galaxy Quest jokes throughout the movie because I like to reference other Alan Rickman roles. But when I'm beating myself up because when Hans shoots Nakatomi, I wish I had said Avada Kedavra. So yeah, those are two jokes that I still wish that I had made those jokes. And now it's too late. Now it's too late. Why does Samuel Sturgill, why does the religious right hate gay people so much? Because they're bigots. Because they're bigoted assholes, and they use their religion to justify it. They think it's okay that they're bigoted assholes because they think that that's what God wants them to do. It's too bad. And it's especially too bad when they are granted, political legislative power. Oh, sorry, John. Sorry. Nakatomi is the tower he shot in Nagagi. I'm sorry. I did call it Tamagotchi Tower in the podcast. So I'm glad I got that one in. But yeah. My God, Sir Kittlot, are you watching? You're watching this live stream and you're also watching a movie at the same time? I applaud. I applaud your dedication, my friend. Zipline Shazam, who do you think would be a better pro wrestler, Sai-10 Bruggencade or Matt Slick? Oh, wow. Sai-10 is actually kind of a big dude. I was surprised. I saw him at the last Reason rally wandering around pathetically trying to pick fights with atheists. And he's actually not he's not a small dude. I don't know what size Matt Slick is. I have no idea. But just based on size, I would have to go with Sai-10. A Trant says, am I looking forward to the Orville season 2? Yes, I definitely am. Greg Bauer says, I noticed Jason is from San Francisco and he plans to include any local San Francisco lore in a future Ensign's Log podcast. That's up to Jason. I've never been to San Francisco, so I don't really know any local San Francisco lore. But if Jason wanted to sneak some in there, yeah, that would be fine with me. It wouldn't, that's the big man's call. That's Big J's call. That's what I call him. I call him Big J. He insists on it. If I call him Jason, he'll fly into a rage. And he'll say, you know what you're supposed to call me. And I'm like, sorry, Big J. That's Big J's call. That's a Big J problem. John Calcagni, do you see the search for Spock as a big Pon farr block? Do you think this is why Spock seems like he's not all there in part 4, as his Pon farr needs weren't seemingly taken care of? I think they were taken care of. Isn't there a cutaway and a cut back? And doesn't it seem like that something has passed between Saavik and Spock? I don't know if that is a Pon farr block. I think something might have been consummated there. I think that may be what we are meant to conclude. This is a great one from Bruce Bartup. Says if Rees, Mogg, Farage, Boris Johnson, Gove, Trump, Bannon, Putin, Tommy Robinson, Sargon, Erdogan, Assad, and MBS were all drowning in human sewage, how would you avoid arrest for negligently leaving? Shit, if it was a crime to negligently leave that, I might just proudly turn myself in and say, hey, lock me up, I'll do my time. Some rides are worth the price of admission. If it's a crime to stand by and watch those people drown in human sewage, I would, you know what? I'd say, hey, lock me up, because I did that and I was proud to do it and I'd do it again. MC3PO says, which do you think Trump will have first, a nervous breakdown or a heart attack? It's asking a lot, I know. Well, I'm personally hoping for the heart attack. I think the nervous breakdown, actually, it might be nervous breakdown. I think the nervous breakdown might have already happened. Lava Lamp Game, what are your thoughts about the trailers for Star Trek Discovery Season 2? I think they've all been great so far. I'm really looking forward to the second season. I think the trailers have really been enticing and exciting. So I'm looking forward to the second season. And the trailers have definitely piqued my interest. Sir Kittalot says, if Ensign's Log makes it to the time of the movies, will we do feature-length episodes? I don't think we're planning to do that. Jason and I have talked about it a couple of times, and obviously we're way, way, way ahead of that. Like, that's not going to happen for a very long time. We're just nearing the end of the first season, so we're not going to get to the movies for a long time. But I think the plan when we get that far is that we're going to skip the movies and we're going to jump to Next Generation. I think that's the plan. If Jason said, hey, we're going to do a feature-length episode for the movie, I mean, I would be all on board with that if we could come up with a creative thing for it, like if there was a reason to do it. But no, I think the plan right now is if we make it to the end of original series, we're going to jump to Next Gen. John Brockman asks, does Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, I think Pete Rose does belong in the Hall of Fame. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if I really agree with gambling being the unforgivable sin in baseball. I understand why Pete Rose was banned. I understand why Pete Rose was punished. I understand that what Pete Rose did was wrong and should not be acceptable. But there's something odd about gambling being the unforgivable sin, whereas performance enhancement, which has arguably even a more direct effect on the outcomes of the games and a more long-term effect on the outcomes of the games and performances of players, that's like a 3 strikes and you're out type of deal. And even then, you're not necessarily out forever. And there's something about that has always rubbed me the wrong way. If you're going to say if you get caught gambling on the game, then you're out forever, 1 strike and you're out, banned for life, fine. But why are we going so easy on steroids? Why are we going so easy on performance-enhancing drugs? If that would also seem to threaten the integrity of the game, which is the whole justification for the severity of the punishment for gambling. They're saying we can't let people be betting on the game, so that's why it's such a severe punishment. If you're caught betting on baseball, look at what happened to Pete Rose. Lifetime ban, no Hall of Fame. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think Pete Rose should probably be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I haven't watched Legion yet, Leto. Sorry. Bruce, I have heard of Peter Jackson's World War I documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old. I would love to see it. I don't know. It hasn't. I think it was just screened in theaters for the first time yesterday. I don't know what the schedule is for releasing it on video or whatever, where I might get to see it, but I will definitely check it out when I am able to see it because it looked fantastic. For those of you who don't know, it's a documentary that Peter Jackson, I think he produced it. I don't know if he directed it or not, but it's made up of original silent film footage, like film footage of soldiers in World War I that has been remastered in high def and colorized and given sound. Like they recorded sound for it so that you get a sense of what it was really like to be there during World War I instead of the black and white sort of scratchy images that we've had, up till now. And it's a really interesting idea, and the trailer makes it look just tremendous. So yeah, I will definitely check it out. Okay, I'm gonna do a lightning round real quick. Hang on. Samuel Sturgill says, do you think Batman does steroids? He used to. That was the Bane thing. He did steroids briefly. He did Venom, and he got hooked on it, and then he had to quit, and then he had to fight Bane. So yes. So would he? Yeah, he would, because he did. Okay, I'm going to step away from the live chat for a second. I know we're running late, so I'm just going to run through some of these pre-submitted comments from the previous episode real quick, and then we'll come back and do a lightning round to finish off. So if you have questions for the lightning round, hold on to them for a few more minutes. I'll come back to the chat. Is it robot again? I don't care for this at all. Let me fix this real quick. Hang on. Just pardon me. How's that? Does it sound better now? Okay, good. So now I know how to fix it. That is a pain in the ass. You know that? Maybe there's a setting I can change so it doesn't go robot on me like that so often. Um, go back to the snowball. Maybe I should go back to the snowball for live streams and save this for something else. I don't know. But anyway, if you have questions for the lightning round, hold on to them for a few minutes. I'm going to go back and answer some previously submitted questions, and then we will do a lightning round to finish things out. So some more pre-submitted questions. These are from the comment section of the last episode. Johnny the Wolf says, "Hey, Steve, I've never really been part of the Star Trek Online community, so I do not know if it has occurred to fans before, but upon watching your video about the Wrath of Khan, I realized just how similar to the Kobayashi Maru scenario the opening scene of Star Trek VI The Undiscovered Country is. Have you noticed it yourself? Also, do you know if this was intentional on the writer's part? I have not been able to find anything about that myself. I don't know if it was intentional on the writer's part, but I definitely see the parallel. Yeah, I mean, it's a Klingon ship in distress that a Federation ship, in this case the Excelsior, captained by Captain Sulu, having to go to their aid. Yeah, there are obvious parallels there. I would guess somebody did that intentionally. You know, said, "How are we going to start this movie? How about an homage to the Kobayashi Maru?" It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know for a fact. I haven't heard anyone say, "Yeah, we were definitely trying to evoke Kobayashi Maru with that." But you know, it was. Both movies were directed by Nicholas Meyer. Both movies are very similar in a lot of ways. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was intentional, and it certainly can be taken as such. But I don't know if it was or not. Caro Genie C. Fuck, marry, kill. Barclay, Riker, baby. Oh my God. This is so cruel. Fuck Riker, because... I mean, are you really going to not fuck Riker if you have the chance? Please. Fuck Riker. Marry Barclay. Kill baby. There is no right answer. There is no right answer. But that is the answer I have given. Here's one from Corey Donaldson. Have you ever been in situations you can't explain, like hearing your name being called only to discover you're home by yourself, or took a little nap then woke up much later as if time had skipped somehow? I have experienced things like that myself. Now, it could just be my mind playing tricks with me, but it felt real. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if anybody watching this ever heard me tell this story, but when I was a kid, I had just gotten a camping tent for like my birthday or something. And I set it up in the backyard. And while I was in the tent fooling around, setting things up, I heard my grandfather's voice say, "Hey, Steve-O," like just as clear and as loud as day. And I walked outside expecting him to be there, because my grandfather was still alive at this point, I should mention. And I walked outside expecting him to be there. Nobody was there. Nobody was there. My grandfather was not at our house. He was nowhere nearby at all. It was an auditory hallucination, but it was completely real. Like, it sounded exactly like he was really there. So yeah, I've experienced things like that. And yeah, I think it is your mind playing tricks on you, but these things happen. Your mind is capable of doing these things. Here's one from the Ghost of Sabotage. With the whole space colonizing space with private companies like SpaceX and the like, who aim to put luxury space hotels in orbit and on the moon, coming in our lifetimes, how well do you think the laws and treaties that were set back in the late 1960s will hold? Or will said treaties fall apart and we'll have a space war over planets and other solar bodies? Well, how many works of popular science fiction are premised on exactly that sort of thing? I would hope not. I would hope that if such tensions begin to arise, that we would at least have the foresight to renegotiate some of those treaties. to update them for our present needs. I would hope that we wouldn't go to war with each other in space, but then again, we're talking about humanity here, and that's probably what will happen. Next, from Alexander Hutton, boxers or briefs? I feel like I've answered this one before, but it's briefs. For me, it's briefs. Because why be comfortable? Next is from Timothy Mastic. He says, "Hi, Steve. You often talk about how Republicans, namely the people in power, are evil in no uncertain terms. And on the level of a YouTuber talking to an audience, that's all well and good. But how does that translate on a more personal level? See, my brother-in-law is a very liberal-minded New Yorker, and recently he's taken on a similar kind of combative rhetoric. The only problem is he uses it when talking to his mother, a refugee who has many liberal beliefs, but also some conservative ones, and happened to vote for Trump 2 years ago. She's not politically active, and to be honest, a GOP vote coming out of Brooklyn doesn't really do anything. I'm hoping you agree that you can't really berate or shame intelligent adults into changing their mind, but what might be some better strategies than lumping her in with everything awful this administration is doing and comparing that one vote to a coke addiction or literal murder? They're really close family. She raised them herself while taking care of her own mother, and it kills me to see them drifting apart when they agree on so much. And it's not like she's out there spreading propaganda or anything. Am I just making excuses for her? Am I the crazy one here? Any help would be much appreciated." Well, I think I kind of touched on this earlier when we were talking about, what's a more productive way to talk about racism and sexism, etc. Without pushing people away or having their defenses come up. I mean, I have similar people. Now, I don't think anybody in my immediate family, but people in my extended family who voted for Trump or who are more politically conservative that I get along with because I like them generally. We have other things in common. And in some cases, because I have to get along with them because it's just, it's a social necessity. And yeah, I don't think you change anybody's mind by berating them. But yeah, I think maybe, and I'm in a similar situation where Trump votes in Maryland didn't really cause any practical harm because Maryland went for Clinton. So you can't say if someone voted for Trump in Maryland, well, they didn't add to his electoral vote total. So there's that. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough thing to have to deal with. Maybe you could frame it in the terms of the harm that is being caused. Maybe you could frame it in the terms of, if you vote for Trump or if you vote for Republican candidates in general, these are the people that are going to suffer because of their policies. And if you don't want these people to suffer, if you want people, if you want people who work at low wage jobs to have a better time of it, you should not be voting for these people. If you want immigrants or children of immigrants even to have an easier time, you should not be voting for these people. If you don't want to be thought of as racist, if you hear someone saying that you're a racist and that alarms you and that makes you cringe and you don't want to be associated with that, well, then you shouldn't vote for these people. And here's why. Because here's why the things that they do are harmful to people of color. Here's why the things that they do and say are fairly and accurately described as racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic or anti-immigrant or whatever. I mean, I think there are ways of talking about it if you break things down into individual issues and you focus on particular things in terms of harm, in terms of people who are threatened by their policies, etc. But yeah, it's very tough. It can be very tough if you see a person that you love or a person that you're close to or a person who is close to friends of yours do something like that. It's not always productive to write everybody off and say, "Oh, fuck her. She voted for Trump. Fuck her." But it can be tough to reach people. You know what I mean? It can be, and family situations where you have to see each other and you have to get along. Sometimes the only thing you can do is to just swallow it and to just say, you know what, let's just not talk about it. We have to see each other. I want to get along. I don't want to not have you in my life. It sucks that it has to be this way, but we're just not going to be able to talk about this. I'm in that situation with a couple people where it's like if they bring up Trump, if they bring up politics, it's not gonna be pretty, and it might end up being our last conversation. Because I'm at that point. But I think that's the best you can hope for in a lot of those situations, unfortunately. And it is sad. You're right. Um, Ahoy, Erno, will you sing us a Christmas carol, please? Anybody who watched the Stephen Stubby Christmas episode knows that I am not the one to ask to sing a Christmas carol. So I will not sing a Christmas carol. Um, I will sing a few lines of a Christmas carol. What's a Christmas carol I should sing? I should sing a Christian one since I'm an atheist. That will be more appropriate. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. That's all you get. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinner reconciled. That's all you get. It's more than you would probably want. Anyway, nobody listens. Hey, Steve. I hope you had a nice Christmas if you're celebrating and a good New Year. Christmas is a bit of a chore for me, honestly. I am a Christian, but Christmas means nothing to me in any way. This year I tried fasting, no meat, booze, or sweets during the Advent season, and while I'm proud of that achievement, it's another try of embracing the holiday, and once again it failed. I like Christmassy food and drink, but other than that, I can't do anything with the holiday, I only have 2 living family members, and they don't talk to each other anymore, so I have to endure Christmas twice. Other than religion and family, is there meaning to Christmas? How can I escape it next year? Oh, that sounds so bleak. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that has happened to you. Oh, have I been singing with robot voice? I love it. I love it. I just noticed. In the chat. I thought I better check, and I'm in robot voice. That's awesome. I'm gonna fix that. Hang on a second. Let me try. Okay. Is this better? And I'm not doing the Christmas Carol again. You got robot Christmas Carol. That's all you're getting. I'm not doing it again. I don't know why it does that. That's that the mic needs some fine tuning. You are correct. I'm not sure why it keeps going robo on me. But anyway, we're almost done. Anyway, so what can nobody listens do to escape Christmas next year? Just don't. I don't know. If you don't like doing the family thing, if you don't like going to 2 family events, then just don't go. If Christmas doesn't have to mean anything to you. If you don't dig it, then don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go if you don't want to. If you want to escape, just say, you know what? Thanks for inviting me, but I'm gonna sit this one out. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that at all. And it means whatever it means to you. You ask, is there meaning beyond family and religion? Maybe not for you, and that's okay. To me, I've always sort of enjoyed the secular sort of cultural Christmas, like, listening to Christmas songs and watching Christmas movies and eating cookies and looking at all the pretty lights and the decorations. Like, all of that is very superficial, but I really like it. So I enjoy it on that level. And again, if you don't, that's completely fine. There's no shame in not liking it or not celebrating it at all. Martin S. says, I stumbled on your content with a Trek Actually recommendation. What I found different and intriguing was your critical thinking skills and humor. Can you provide recommendations for viewers that you found useful in building your critical thinking skills? Have you considered creating content that specifically targets critical thinking for viewers? Most of your videos demonstrate and touch on critical thinking, but I haven't found one that hits directly on the topic. I enjoy the story and often find something new when exposed to another person's critical thinking process and evolution. I can't really point you to anything particular as far as, read this or watch this and it'll help you be a good critical thinker. I just think it's one of those things that it's just a muscle that needs to be exercised. It's just something that you need to do. If you need to ask yourself, why do you think the things you think? Why do you believe the things you believe? And you need to ask the same thing of other people and ask them to tell you, why do you think that? Why do you believe that? Why is that true to you? I think that's a big help. I've mentioned a couple times, when I was a teenager, I read Voltaire, and Voltaire isn't, necessarily the best place to go for critical. I mean, he wasn't an uncritical thinker. He was a very sharp guy, but he's not the person people point to necessarily. But he was like my first exposure to that sort of heavy philosophy type of thing. And I remember reading Thomas Paine's The Age of Reason, which I mentioned in a previous episode of this show, and his response to the Bible. He did sort of a response to the Bible using only the Bible. He referred only to the Bible to refute the Bible, and that was very instructive. So I might throw in The Age of Reason, but the best way to become a good critical thinker is to just practice it. And especially practice it with your own beliefs and your own attitudes and your own opinions. And this is the last one, the last pre-submitted question from Matt Machado. Hey, Steve, for the past couple months, I've been feeding the neighborhood feral cats. Was there anything you want me to tell them for you? Tell them that they are good little kitties and that you love them very much. Because that's something that every cat deserves to hear, I think. Just my opinion. Yeah, just keep feeding the cats and just tell them that they're good kitties. I have a heart for feral cats too. We don't have them in Sharpsburg very much anymore, but I used to. If you're going for a walk and a cat come up to you, I was always very nice to the stray cats in town. Well, my friends, we have come to that time. This, I think, has gone on nearly long enough. It's time to end this and to end all of our suffering by finishing out this live stream with a little something that I like to call
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions, glib and adequate answers.
I hope you could hear that. That was the lightning round intro. Once I played it and it didn't play, you couldn't hear it. I hope everybody heard the lightning round intro, and I hope it wasn't robot. But Adam, go ahead, ask your question. What is it? I just got home from picking up of the Klonopin. Life sucks, but whatever. Can you do my question? Yeah, what's your question, Adam? I didn't see it. Have you asked it yet, or do you need to ask it again? I will not start the timer until Adam asks his question in the live chat, and then I will answer it, and then we will start the lightning round, because that's what I'm here for, is shameless pandering. You could hear it good. It's the thing okay, I see. I'm not checking Facebook. Let me check. Okay. Sending me Facebook shit. I close out all of my other tabs when I'm doing it. So, okay, I will check Adam's message. This is riveting. This is riveting television right here. Let me see here. Okay. Adam says, I think that talking too much about feminism helping men will be seen as a concession to the people who are opposed to feminism. Just handing them the premise that feminism is somehow obligated to be helpful to men in order to be legitimate. This should not be true. A struggle by a particular group, by that group for liberation, does not have to be helpful to the traditionally and historically dominant group. It's like asking what Black Lives Matter can do for white people and cops, or what gay rights will do to make my straight relationship more satisfying. Men can take action in the interest of our own liberation, including from patriarchal social and cultural institutions, and it isn't women's job to liberate us from ourselves. This is separate from the matter of whether feminism is, in fact, beneficial to men. I think it has been. I think it has had positive effects that have ultimately been helpful and maybe life-saving for me. I just don't think that this is something that I was owed by feminism in order to be supportive of feminism. And I think conceding that feminism does have some responsibility to save men from ourselves poses a potential strategic risk. I understand the sad irony of being a dude and being the one to point this out to another dude, but I hope a woman might pick this up and run with it. Yeah, you know what? You're goddamn right. I'm glad you sort of dragged me to that just now, Adam, because that's a good point. As it turns out, feminism is beneficial to men, but it doesn't have to be. That's not the point of it. And if it wasn't beneficial to men, it would still be worth supporting because it's about the liberation of an oppressed group. And if it happens to not have a direct benefit to a non-oppressed group, that's not really the point, is it? So I think that's a very good point. That's a very good point. That you shouldn't need to dangle that in front of people and say, hey, feminism is good for men too. You know, if you care about equality and you care about justice, you should be supportive of feminism, whether it helps people in your particular group or not. You know, you should be worried about whether it helps marginalized people, whether it helps people who are oppressed, not people who aren't oppressed. If you are a man and you are not oppressed by the systems that, or at least you're not primarily oppressed by the systems that feminism seeks to reform and to change. It doesn't matter whether you're helped by it or not. You should support it because it's trying to correct an injustice. So that's a great point. Absolutely. That's a great point. And as Leto points out in the chat, women have been saying this for years. Feminism doesn't have to help men in order to be a supportable, praiseworthy, important cause. So yes, absolutely. I think it's a great point, 100%. And I'm glad that I mentioned it before we do the lightning round. So now, sorry about the false alarm for the lightning round. That was my fault. Take it out on me by asking me some really mean questions. I'm going to start the timer. So get your lightning round questions ready. For real this time. And we're going to do it. Okay, here we go. When the timer shows up, just start firing the questions. I saw one a little earlier, actually. Zipline Shazam said Frosted Flakes or Captain Crunch. I will say Frosted Flakes. Best alien movie, Aliens, the second one. Any love for Babylon 5? I feel it's underrepresented, and I liked that it had overtures to the LGBT community. Yeah, I like Babylon 5 a lot. I've mentioned a couple of times. It never got me as much as Star Trek did, but I like Babylon 5 a lot. Yeah, very much. Let me see. Sir Kidalot says, any interest in getting into Doctor Who? I watched the first season and a couple episodes from the first reboot season, the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston. I watched the Christopher Eccleston season, and I watched the first couple episodes of the first Tenet season, and then I just kind of stopped. Not because I didn't like it, because I did like it a lot. I just haven't had time to get into it. But yes, I've been trying to get into Doctor Who for a couple years. 255 AD says, suppose you could jump into the timeline where Hillary won. Would that be worth losing all the life experiences you've had in the last 2 years? Maybe. Can I bring some people with me? Christy says, rainbow Christmas lights on the tree or single color. When I grew up, it was rainbow Christmas lights. Since I've been married, it has been just all white Christmas lights. And I kind of like those now, actually. I'm used to those. But yeah, when I was a kid, it was the rainbow Christmas lights all the way. Liam Foley, how do you think the DCEU should handle Superman's secret identity now that Supes and Clark are back from the dead? I mean, they should handle it the same way they handled it in the comics, you know? Oh, it just so happens that Clark Kent, who also died around the same time that Superman died, is still alive too. Weird. What a coincidence. I think they should do it that way. The Trolls. Steve, do you watch any IRL streamers? I'm watching one who I enjoy a lot, but there's quite a toxic chat section attached. No, I do not. Malevolent Divinity. How much would we collectively need to donate for 10 seconds of capless time? I feel like I'm leaving money on the table here, but I'll do that for you right now for free. It's the end of the year. Fuck it. You want 10 seconds of capless time? I'll start at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. There. 5 seconds. That's 10 seconds of capless time. For free. For free. Leto Anor, Nutella or peanut butter? You will be judged on your answer. I gotta say peanut butter. I mean, Nutella is like a treat, is like a snack, but I could live on peanut butter. Bruce Bartup, agreement or rouse, dissent or consensus, argument or discussion. Why do we always choose the wrong one? Because we're not very smart. We're not very bright. Christy says eggnog or mulled wine. I've never had mulled wine. Do you believe that? I've never drank mulled wine, so I would have to say eggnog. Nathaniel Robinson, if the nude selfie in Mueller's files is made public, would you look? Yeah, probably. Christy Winters, candy canes or gingerbread cookies? Gingerbread cookies. Joe McClory, fave Alan Rickman character, the Sheriff of Nottingham from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. 255 AD, what do you think of Christian communists? I think they came to the right conclusion for the wrong reasons. That's a really good, I like that. I'll go with that. That's a really good explanation. Greg Bauer, ever play Star Trek Online? No, I haven't, but I hear it's, from people who describe it, I hear it's really good. Kate Emmons, should trans people have to disclose their birth sex to potential sexual partners, even if they have had surgery? I think that's up to them. I don't think they have to do anything. Liam Foley, was Kirk justified in ending the computer war in Taste of Armageddon? I think he was justified in ending it, but I mean, he's not justified in ending it unilaterally like that. I'll put it that way. I think ending that war was the right thing, but doing it the way he did it and then saying, well, good luck sorting it out, bye, was not the right thing to do. Bruce Bartup, Wonder Woman review, ever or never? No, I'm going to do it at some point. I'll do it at some point. I wouldn't say never. Yeah, all white lights, racist. Thanks, John. Oh my God, Zipline Shazam, you have to have a brain transplant. Whose brain do you choose, William Lane Craig or Frank Turek's? Oh God. Craig, I think Craig, because I don't know. Craig might actually be intentionally full of shit. I'm not sure. I don't think he is, but there's a chance that he's like a willful grifter and he actually knows better. That's time, but I'm going to answer a few more real quick. Steve, what do you think of a Beto O'Rourke or Bernie run for 2020? I'd rather see Beto run than Bernie, but there's probably a better choice than either of them. Trance, what are my plans for New Year's Eve? What do I normally do? Well, normally we watch the Twilight Zone marathon and then we flip over to Times Square like a few minutes beforehand and we watch the ball drop, smooch at midnight, and then watch a few more Twilight Zones and go to bed. That's probably what we're going to do this year. Greg Bauer, odds on the Democratic, 255 AD, Terra Nova Captain Archer considered kidnapping tribe of humans reverted to a Stone Age level technology. Do you think that would count as a genocidal act? Also, I got my ship avatar from that episode. Considered kidnapping a tribe of humans. Yeah, I don't know if it would be genocide, but it would be. I don't think you should do it. I think it's unacceptable. You know, Greg Bauer, odds on the Democratic ticket in 2020 having exactly one white guy. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yes, I am a bad capitalist, Anna, because I should have gotten some money for that. Absolutely. Who would win, 5 million Cybermen or $4? I have no idea. Adam says, would you like to see me wear a cap for 10 seconds? For the same price? Yeah, absolutely. Eggnog or yayo? Having never had yayo, I'm going to have to go with eggnog. Some random geek, how would you like to die? Not at all. Ass or titties? Oh, God, it's so tough. Titties. But it's close. It's so close. Ever notice how Greg Bauer? Ever notice how Scotty was promoted to captain in Star Trek 3, demoted back to commander in 4, and promoted back to captain again in 5? I didn't notice that. Yeah, you're right. He was captain in 4 and 3. I didn't notice that he was commander again in 4. Good catch. I never noticed that. Christy says broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Broccoli. 255 AD. Boxers or bulldogs? Boxers. But again, that's tough because I love all dogs. Some random geek, nickname in high school. I didn't have one. What Christian apologist would you cast as the next Kai? Oh, man. Oh man. Well, Strobel. Strobel would be Kai. Strobel would be a good Kai. Robert Collins, if you could have dinner with anyone alive or dead, who would it be? Charlie Chaplin. Sorry, Yayo. It's a, yeah. Sorry, Yayo. I don't know about drugs. Because I don't do drugs. I'm not cool. Yayo, sorry. I'm going to forget that, Adam. The next time you drop that into a question and I read it, I'm going to say Yayo again. Okay, Yayo. Would you rather have to eat my arm or have me eat yours? I'd rather eat yours because then I still have my arm. Come on. Ooh, did Kirk straighten his hair on TOS or did he get a perm for the film era? I like to think he got a perm. I like to think he consciously made a change. Bruce Bartup, liberty or dinner? Dinner. Who's gonna say no to free food? All right, so I'm going to call this to a close. Thank you all so much for participating in the lightning round and in all of us. Okay, one more from 255 AD. This is the last question I'm answering, so don't ask anymore. 255 AD question: will you read this? There you go. I think we know the answer to that now. I want to thank everybody for being with me for this. This is almost 2 hours. Give me liberty or give me dinner. Yeah. I'm going to finish so that John can let the dog out. Sorry for the robot voice. Thank you for letting me know about it. I want to remind everybody that not only do I do YouTube stuff, but I co-host a couple of awesome podcasts, the Late Seating Podcast and the Ensign's Log Podcast, both of which can be heard at letmelistenpodcast.com. And you can also subscribe to them on via RSS via the links in the description. Also, I do this for a living, and you can help me continue to do this by becoming a supporter through Patreon. If you're not a supporter already, www.patreon.com/Steve Shives. One of the benefits you get for any level of support is that you get to pre-submit questions on the Patreon page that I ask at the beginning of all of these Ask Away live streams. So if you want to make sure you get your question in and answered on the air, you can become a patron and you can ask it ahead of time before the live stream starts. I always post something a few days ahead of time. So there you go. Thank you all so much for your support. Some random geek, thank you very much. Chrisiosity has a patron hangout tomorrow. Go check out Chrisiosity's hangout on her channel tomorrow. My patron hangout is this weekend as well. So if you're a Patreon patron and you like the monthly hangouts, that will be on Sunday at the usual time on my channel. Anyway, bye Leto. Bye everybody. Thank you all for watching. Hope you had a good Christmas if you celebrated. Hope you have a good New Year's if that means anything to you. Happy holidays. Thank you for a great year for me. And see you next time and see you next year. Bye everybody.